Hey watch friends, today we're going to take a look at this Second Hour Mandala. This is a piece that takes aim at being a do-all sports watch, and in this video we'll find out if it's successful. So before we get started, let's first highlight a few administrative matters. First, I do want to note that this is currently live on Kickstarter. That's until April 7th of 2021. So if you are interested, this one is published late in the campaign here due to carrier delays. Do definitely stay tuned, and I'll have a link in the description to the Kickstarter campaign. Additionally, this one is a prototype, so there are going to be a few small changes for the production model, which are, in my opinion, are improvements, and we'll talk about those. And additionally, this one is, of course, sent in as a review sample, so if you see any scratches or anything throughout, know that this was not received brand new. First, in case you missed it, I want to give you a quick preview of the unboxing. This pouch here, this is going to be similar to the overall style as far as it will be a 2-watch zipper pouch, and it is a hard case, very nice, durable for travel. However, I'll pop up images on the screen here as to what the final production one will look like. It's going to be styled, as we'll see here, after the rotor on the back, so that was a really cool touch that they did to customize that. Additionally, for accessories, beyond that pouch, you of course do get this coming standard on the bracelet. It also comes with a NATO for it, which is a good extra there. It comes with a spring bar tool as well as a screwdriver. So this one, they're packing in quite a lot in terms of accessories. As far as warranty, this will come standard with a 2-year warranty, so that's nice as well beyond the standard one. Now let's go ahead and dive into the specs and get those out of the way. For overall case, this is coming in at 40 millimeters, and on my calipers, it came in right spot on. At the bezel, this does step down, and this is coming in just under 39 millimeters. I measured 38.9. For the lugs, this is going to be a standard size of 20 millimeters, so it will be great for any strap change options there. In terms of the lug-to-lug, I get a little larger than the specs at 45.75, so 45 3/4. For the thickness, again, I got a little thicker here than was stated, but still very reasonably skinny here. This one is coming in on my calipers at 10.8 millimeters overall, and that is including both of these crystals. So you'll see in a moment, we do have an exhibition crystal on the back, which sits a little proud, and then on the top here, you can see that nice beveled crystal that does sit very proud, so that adds to the overall thickness as well. Certainly not a box edge or anything, but that does impact the total thickness, which still achieves a very thin. One of the things that I mentioned in the unboxing that I wanted to get calipers on is this mid case. As you can see here, this has a very thin look to that, and this is only actually coming in on my calipers at approximately 5 millimeters. That's actually including these cut downs. So with the way that they did this cut in the polish, I think it even visually looks significantly skinnier than that. However, that is total thickness here for the mid case, so very slim throughout there. Looking at the Sapphire itself, this does have a flat sapphire crystal, and it does come with an inner AR coating, and as we saw, it does have that nice beveled edge to that, which I think is an attractive touch. For the movement, this one is going to come standard with the Miyota 9039. However, if you haven't been following the campaign, you may not be aware that they did actually have a stretch goal of having a Miyota 9015. The primary difference there is going to be no date, as you see here in the 9039, or with a date, and that will come at the 6 o'clock position for the 9015 option, and that's available for each colorway, which we'll look at more details of that shortly. In terms of water resistance, as you'd expect for being a do-all watch, it must have adequate water resistance as a requisite, and this does come in at 10 atmospheres or 100 meters, which is plenty sufficient for your typical daily needs. Again, this isn't fashioned to be a diver, so I think that is plenty respectable. For weight, on the bracelet, and this is sized to my 6.5-inch wrist, this is going to be coming in at 113.2 grams. So not a complete featherweight, but pretty darn light overall. And I have found this to be exceptionally comfortable on the wrist. It does, as you can see there, it does contour nicely to the wrist. And we'll talk about this and the overall characteristics more as we go throughout the video. Alright, so now that we have some of the basic specs out of the way, let's go ahead and take a deeper dive into the actual characteristics of this watch. What's it like to live with it? Some of the things looking at it, different lighting conditions, this specific colorway, all those kind of elements. So while we're on the topic of colors, let's go ahead and first take a look at the colors that are available, and I'll pop these up on the screen. there's a whole host of options that are available. Standard, this is coming with 6 different colors. You can see everything from a dark blue, this light silver blue that we're looking at today, a salmon, etc. So we have a whole number of options. Additionally, as a stretch goal, they did add a red colorway that is an option, and that one is close to being fully funded. So if you're interested, do help them to get over that threshold. As far as looking at the dial itself, this one does come with, as you can see, a very 3D dial to it. So in the middle here, you of course have a very attractive guilloche. On the outer perimeter, you have a nice satin type finish. I would say it's a light sunburst, but for me, it reads more as satin and does give a lot of light play to that. Additionally, towards the outer edge, you can see that this does step up and it has a rehaut. And then around the outer perimeter there, it does have an additional flattened layer out. So you get kind of a dual texture and finish there. So really nice and great transitions all the way around. As mentioned, they are going to have a version that does have a 6 o'clock date window. This one, of course, is the version without the date window that we're looking at today. For the dial text, this does just have a simple logo at the 12 o'clock position and then just the name Mandala at the 6 o'clock position. As you can see here in the footage across the various lighting conditions, this has excellent light play. It's very dynamic. It does color shift a lot, and we'll talk about that more as we go on. For the hardware, this hardware is custom throughout, and that's one of the things that's a hallmark of this entire model, a lot of custom work. So the overall for the positions, instead of going with your traditional 12, 3, 6, and 9 for your markers as far as hitting your large markers, this one has become a signature design characteristic of second hour watches. This one highlights the 12, the 4, and the 8 o'clock. And you can see larger markers on the dial itself, and then additionally you have these floating markers that do hover over, which is something that I personally haven't seen before, and I think that's a very interesting little element to this. And as we'll see here in the loom footage shortly, that does really add to amping that up, and it makes it very easy to tell in the watch box which one is your second hour piece. The hardware itself is going to be a full polish, and as we were talking about here, it does have the double depth for those markers, so that adds a lot of element. Looking at the hands here, you can see, I would call these for the minute and hour hand, I'd call it almost like a grill fork kind of design there. I wasn't certain how that was going to read, but as you can see here, I think it's very easy. No, it doesn't come to a point, but you can easily see right in between those forks and tell what time it is precisely, while still getting that unique element and touch to that. And then of course the second hand is custom there as well. So while we were talking about the loom, this one for loom is going to come standard with BGW9, and that's going to be on the hands as well as the markers. It is well applied and it does glow very brightly. Additionally, as we'll talk about, the crown on the production model is also going to be a C3 loom, so that will be loomed as well. Transitioning now to the bezel, you can see this does have a fixed bezel, and this is going to have nice stepping to it. So this is recessed, of course, as we talked about, but additionally you can see it has a flat layer, then it has a chamfer, and then it flattens off towards the top and tapers into that crystal there. You can also see that this does have a nice mix of polishing on the top, which I think lends more to the dressy style, as well as brushing on the side, which would be more consistent with a tool watch aesthetic. Again, walking that line nicely. The case. On the production model, this prototype that we're looking at does not have a coating, but the production model on both the case as well as the bracelet will have a full hardened coating. So that for me is an excellent feature, and that's one that I've really come to appreciate. That increases the Vickers rating significantly, and that will help to keep from getting scratches, scuffs, typical daily wear for that, keeping this looking new longer. So that's excellent. As far as the overall style of this, you can see it's a very nice sweeping flow to the case. So the lugs, of course, do turn down. That has that real gradual slope throughout. And then again, with that difference of textural application here with the brushing as well as the polish, I think that really accentuates the thinness of this, and I think makes it look and feel very nice on the wrist overall. So excellently done there. For the overall finishing, as you can see here, I think the finishing, even on this prototype model, is exceptionally well applied. The brushing is very clean and crisp, nice tight lines. Same thing with the polishing. Pardon any fingerprints on there, but as you can see, great reflectivity, nicely polished, and I think that does complement the overall aesthetic. And that, of course, as we'll see here, does taper down into the bracelets, or does transition down to the bracelet as well. So that's a great touch. Transitioning over to the crown, this one is coming in at 5.8 millimeters, and as you would expect, this is a screw-down crown. It is, on the production version, going to be both signed and loomed. So all of those areas that are currently recessed, that will be filled with loom on the production model. The crown itself is going to be a checkered texture for that, so it gets away from the traditional like gear cuts that you see on many and goes over to a checkering style. And then, of course, it is captured within crown guards. I find it to be relatively easy to grab a hold of. Flipping over to the case back, as we talked about here, this one does come with a Miyota movement. One of the things that Miyotas are not known for is being particularly attractive. However, this one, between the Geneva striping on the movement itself, as well as this customized rotor, and I will tell you this is going to be a change for the production model. It's going to have deeper, tighter cuts throughout, so this will be even fancier than this one is. I think that they really did a good job of showcasing the otherwise faultless, reliable, great Miyota movement. Now it actually has some visual appeal to it also, so I think that was a very nice feature. As far as the actual case back, you can see this does have mixed texture with a combination of satin as well as brushing for the finishing. And then, of course, as we just talked about, the large exhibition case back there. Transitioning now to the bracelet itself. The bracelet is going to be, again, as we mentioned, coated here. And this is going to be 20 millimeters at the top, and it does taper down to just under 18. I got 17 3/4. Additionally, this, as you can see, is a fully custom 9-link bracelet, which is one of the larger that I have seen. I've had other that are 7 links, but this is my first for the 9-link. So that's a pretty cool touch. Additionally, if the camera will pick it up here, you can see you do get reflectivity on the brushing, but this does have alternating brush and polish. So that adds a lot of pop to that as well. And I do find on the wrist, this has a lot of shine, a lot of bling to it. I'm not normally a huge bling guy, but I do think that it really suits for the dressy kind of line for this. So I think it does complement it well. Plus, I do like the overall aesthetic of this bracelet. And as you can see here, excellent articulation. And on the note of articulation, check that out. Can get flat to the case back, and additionally this does have a female end link, so you have no additional protrusion there, so you do keep that nice tight, thin, or short lug to lug dimension there. So that's a great touch. As far as articulation and light play, as we saw in some of the outdoor footage, as well as looking at it here, you can see it does really like to play with the light, both with the textural differences and with all of those links in there. So that's excellently done. Comfort on this has been fantastic. As far as the clasp itself, this does have a milled clasp. You can see they didn't fully mill it out here in the middle, which I think was kind of interesting. So it does sit even flatter on the wrist here. You don't have that for any kind of hot spot, but it is still nicely milled into there. As far as the clasp itself, it is going to be a nice thin profile for the clasp, and it is just a traditional double pusher, and it does have a recessed down in or a pressed type logo there. For micro adjustments, this will come standard with 3 micro adjustments holes, and you can see this does match the finishing for the bracelet, where you have brushing as well as along the edge that nice polished lip. So pretty excellent there. Now that we've looked at all that, one of the things that I know came up was looking at some comparables, particularly for this specific colorway, and this one is the silver blue, as it's called. It's kind of hard to make out in conditions, or in some lighting conditions, as to what this actually presents like. So one of the things that I wanted to do was give a mix of some of the color hues that this has, and really try to give a better feel for what this looks like in person. I have found that more often than not, in my opinion, this errs on the side of silver, but it picks up nice, subtle, delicate hints of blue. So it gives you that alluring pop to where it's not as flat or as plain as a traditional silver would be. However, it does not hit you in your face, as we'll see here, with a full blue dowel either. So as far as some of these, here you can see it next to an off-white Citizen, and this gives you an idea as to how that presents. So you can see, of course, more of that blue and more of that gray. Now going on the far end of the spectrum here, you can see this is an Ice Mako, and this one you can see is much more saturated, a much more vibrant color of blue, but it definitely is much more in your face, so it wouldn't lend itself as well to the dress kind of look. Now, Let's check this out next to some gray. You can see when it's next to gray, it does, I think, actually pull out more of that silver, though you can still get little hints of that delicate blue. Some of the other comps that this reminds me of, the actual dial pattern here, I'm going to pop up a picture. We previously reviewed a Vario Empire, and I think that center guilloche is similar to that Vario, and I liked it on that one. I like it on this one as well. As far as the coloration on this specific one, I do find that this actually reminds me of the Grand Seiko Blue Snowflake, and I'll pop up a picture of that as well. It has that delicate touch where it gives you that subtle hue, almost picks up at times kind of a violet coloration to it. So I find this to be very dynamic, have a lot of light play to this, and it really, I do think, is a versatile color, whether you're looking for a little bit of pop and get those eye-catching hints of blue, or alternatively you're looking for a little more subdued and want something that's going to go with a wide variety of shirts and in different styles and options there. So great overall color. I've been impressed with this one, and I liked it more and found it to be more versatile than I had expected. So overall, that gives us a total look as to what you can expect for this watch. What are some total and closing thoughts for this? So first, before we get into that, let's go ahead and check out one of the other things you might be curious about, which is what would this look like with some different strap options. First, for this specific one, I picked a gray here. You can see how that would look there with a darker gray. Here it is with a black, and this is a sailcloth. And if you are interested in any straps, I will have affiliate links in the description for Amazon. Anything you purchase from Amazon using those links does help me out. It doesn't have to be the items that are linked, so that is appreciated. Here is with a khaki canvas. Putting this next to some blue rubber. And then finally, looking at, I said actually previously, this is actually a navy blue, not a black. Here it is next to a black sailcloth. So that gives you an idea as to what that would look like with some different strap options there. All right, so with all that out of the way, hopefully you now have a better feel for the overall model as well as this specific colorway, which is one of the things I really wanted to highlight, especially for those on the fence about making their decision that did back this on the campaign. So what are some closing thoughts on this one? First, let's go through the positives, some of the critiques that I have, and then we'll get to the overall summary. For the positives, I've got to say the finishing on this I think is excellent. That's in all regards. The overall, the application of the brushing, the polish accents, the dial finish and textures, I think everything is very well done, especially for the price point. The dial itself, loads of depth to this dial. That can't be overstated enough. This has so many layers to it between the rehaut, the outer perimeter lip there, the internal depth with the center guilloche, the slightly raised here with the perimeter, the markers, the two layers of the markers, across the board, depth, 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 all the way around. Really loads of depth and keeps you interested there. Additionally, as far as the intended target of being kind of a do-all watch, I do find that this is one that does successfully transition, and I'll pop some pics up here of with a suit as well as some casual pics. I think this transitions very well depending on what the application is for it, and I think this truly could be a one-watch collection or a do-all kind of watch. From the reliable movement to the overall aesthetic, I think it hits that objective well. On the wrist, as we saw, this I think looks great, but additionally it is very, very light. It contours excellently, and I found this to be exceptionally comfortable, no hot spots, no issues, just a great wearing experience for the few days that I've had this on wrist. As far as some of the critiques, just a few minor things, and of course, as I mentioned, this is a prototype model, so I don't expect that this will make it to the production model. However, I did notice them, so I wanted to point them out. There is on the upper, at the 12 o'clock, on the upper marker there, you can see there's just a slight misalignment for that. It's not real dramatic, but it is slightly off, so I did want to point that out. I do suspect, again, just being a prototype, that will be cleaned up. This is just a preference item, but the crown. Personally, I think I would have liked to have seen a different crown on this. Rather than have the checkering for this, I think I would have preferred just traditional grooves, just to clean up that overall aesthetic. I think that would have walked the line a little better for the dress look, though I think this does lend more to the sporty feel. Additionally, I think I would have preferred this without crown guards and just go with a slightly tucked back crown, a little bit smaller, and lose the crown guards. For me, again, that's just aesthetic choices. I'm not trying to critique the overall design. That's just a preference-based item, but it is something that I noted. Finally, And again, this is just something that would have been a nice to have. Going for micro adjustments, I've become accustomed to having the toolless micro adjustments that are becoming popular, particularly on Christopher Ward, Zellos, and some others as well. I would have liked to have had, on all of my watches, to have a toolless micro adjust, so that would have been excellent. Same thing is true. To have more than 3 positions would have been nice for just fine tuning, but again, these are all minor issues. Howdy is, that's all I could come up with for this. This watch is such a well-executed watch, it's really hard to find too many faults with it. So where does that leave us? As you might have guessed, this is absolutely one that I would recommend. As far as the overall package that you're getting here, particularly at Kickstarter pricing and along the notes of Kickstarter, this is going to be presently, as of publishing, around $435 to $455 US. The full retail will come in at $565, all of which I think you get a lot for your money. So I do think that this is one that punches above its class for the price point, from the packaging to the overall watch package itself. I think you do get a lot for your money. Additionally, one of the things that's great about this, and one of the things I love about micro brands, you get a lot of customization. So this one, they did not go with box parts. Every aspect of this is going to be unique, from the handset to the markers to the actual overall aesthetic to the bracelet. It really lets you know that you're wearing a second hour watch, which is something that I very much appreciate and one of the reasons I look to micro brands. So for that, I think you are getting a heck of a lot for your overall money, from the style to the overall execution. Definitely do encourage you to check this out. So I hope this video has been helpful for you. If you do enjoy this and you could hit that like button, that's appreciated. And additionally, if you'd like to see more content, please do hit that subscribe button. It tremendously helps out the channel. Finally, as I mentioned, I do have affiliate links in the description. If you'd care to check any of those out, you can help me out on Amazon. And if you're looking to find me on another medium, you can find me on Instagram. Thanks for watching.